Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our digital Q&A session with Kelly Yeoh. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you here from the traditional lands of the Kaurna people. I recognise their connection to this land, waters and skies, and I pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I extend those respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. My name is Amy, and I'm a space communicator at the Australian Space Discovery Centre here in Adelaide. Today, I'm assisted behind the scenes by Leah. If you have any questions during our chat today, please submit them through the Q&A or ask your teacher to send them through for you. And Leah and I will pass them along to our guest. One last piece of housekeeping. Our session will be wrapping up at 2:45 p.m. Australian Central Daylight Time today, and we invite you to stop in the Discovery Centre or drop us a line via the contact details on our website. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming space expert Kelly Yeoh. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your journey so far in your space career, Kelly?
Thanks so much. It's such an honour to be here. My journey for my space career so far. So I guess I first discovered a love for space when I was a kid. I think I was 11 years old when Halley's Comet went through. That was in 1986. So for those counting at home, that does make me 50 now. And I do have the commemorative medal to prove it.
Oh my gosh, congrats. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, I spent most of that autumn sleeping on the trampoline out in the backyard just to be able to catch glimpses of this comet trailing across the sky throughout the several months that it was visible. It was just an amazing experience. So yeah, it started off with a love of space back then. And, as a kid growing up in country Victoria at the time, I didn't actually really feel like space was a career option for me. So I sort of gave up on that and went off and studied computer science at university instead. So I became a computer programmer, as one does. I grew up with parents who were both tradies, so that's people who work in the building industry. So I was always on building sites when I wasn't at school. So I'm very good at DIY stuff and hands-on building things. And then went off to do computer science at uni. So I became a computer programmer and ended up with a career at that time where I was working in regulatory technology. So I was working for both Vic Roads, doing driver's licensing rules and regulations and writing programs that would make sure that driver's licenses were created in accordance with those rules. And then for Victoria Police, doing applications such as their private agents registry. So any security guards have to have licenses that were done through this system, and also their guns licensing systems. And then I moved from that into doing their forensic science centre. So this is any criminal evidence and how that gets managed in its processes through getting from the police investigations through to the court system. So very regulatory based and making sure that things are happening in accordance with certain rules and requirements. I moved from there into doing a master's degree and also teaching master's level computer science. So I was very much working with distributed systems, distributed databases and web applications before web applications were really a thing. And from there into operating systems development. So I went from regulatory technology to very, very big technology. Life happens, things changed. I decided I needed to get away from that computer science area, and I went in and did a law degree instead, as one also does. And during that time, I met Alice Gorman, who I believe was a former guest on this Q&A as well.
There you go.
And she said to me, "What flavour of law are you studying?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, something tech related. I still love technology. I just needed to get away from being a computer programmer." And she's like, "Oh, I know, space law. You will be a space lawyer. And not only that, you will be my space lawyer." And I figured, who am I to argue with Alice Gorman? She's amazing. So I went off and I studied everything I possibly can to do with space law. And then emerged from that with a love of space law and an excitement for the space sector and just wanting to get involved in general. So yeah, that put me to this intersection of being a new lawyer and wanting to work with space and hearing from all these companies that there's this massive, massive problem, which is we build these amazing technologies, but once we've built them, we can't do anything with them. What do we do with them without permission to do something with them? So people would build a satellite or build a rocket, and then they go, yep, we're ready to launch it. And now we can't because we need to go through this big, long regulatory experience that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. And nobody knows how to do it, and it's a problem. So I looked into that problem, and to me, it was just a matter of a regulatory set of issues that could be solved with technology. And so I thought, well, let's apply technology to it. And I had a look around to see why it hasn't been done before. And it hasn't been done before because it's really, really big. And I thought, well, I've done big technology before, so why not just get in and do that? I'm not sure if that makes me insane or really, really good for the space sector, but yeah, we're doing it. I've now got a team behind me. We all believe in what we're doing, and we're trying to make life simpler for space companies who are trying to put things into orbit.
Amazing. That sounds like a very, very unique journey into space, which you find the more people that you speak to, everyone's journey is so different, but very, very cool that you're now the CEO and founder of Blue Dwarf. On that note, what does a day in the life of being a CEO and founder of Blue Dwarf Space look like?
Oh, at the moment, meetings, and more meetings. Yeah, we've had a bit of success recently, and a lot of people have been very interested in what it is that we're doing, and so we've got a lot of my time is taken up with jumping into meetings with different people and having a chat about what the issues are that they're seeing and what we can do to assist them through those issues. We have a team of 8 people now. Some of them are part-time, and there's a lot of interactions between the team with trying to delegate different tasks to different people. We have people who are more regulatory researchers. We've got a rocket engineer working for us. We've got some programmers, and just making sure that everybody has what they need to be able to do their jobs while I'm also in a lot of meetings. Yeah, so most days just look like a lot of meetings. I heard Flavia from Fleet Space give an interview a little while ago, and she said that she's found herself in a similar position to the one that I'm in now, and she moved herself beyond that into, I just make one decision per day, that's my job. And then after that, I can read what I want and do what I want. It's one decision per day, and I look forward to being in a position to get there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that sounds like an awesome day, just having to do that one decision. I'm sure it's still very tricky though.
Yeah.
Also, I know you were talking about Blue Dwarf before and what they do and how they help space companies. Is it predominantly helping with rocket launching, or are there other areas as well?
So at the moment, there's not really a lot of rocket launching that's going on in Australia. We've got a lot of companies like startups, particularly startups who are building payload or building some really cool technology that they want to put onto rockets. Most of them are launching with SpaceX at the moment. And we've been assisting them with a lot of their queries about what should this documentation look like, what sort of answers should we be putting into here. But we're also around that building our own platform, which we've been able to demonstrate more recently, that automates those processes for companies. So a big part of the problem that a lot of these guys are seeing is it doesn't matter if they're building rockets or building satellites or building components for satellites. Every single one of them needs to get permission to be able to put that into space. Or even if they're doing a suborbital launch, there's still a lot of permissions in place to be able to do those things. And it's different. It's a different process for everybody. Depending on what they're doing, where they're doing it, where they're buying their parts from, how they fit together, if they're biological components or various other things. There's a lot of considerations that change what that journey looks like for users. And so what we're doing is we're writing software that works out with them what that journey actually is and applies the regulations to it one by one and makes sure that they're covering every single thing they need to cover, and that they're not forgetting any components of it. And we can turn that from the demo that we were giving recently has turned a 3-4 month process into around about 30 seconds worth of questions.
Really? Wow, okay. So it sounds like it's making a real difference in terms of companies are able to spend, less time trying to figure out these regulations that they're not entirely across, and you guys just kind of help them streamline that process,
Yeah,
so that they can get back to doing what it is that they
do best,
that
which is usually
yeah,
engineering.
yeah, amazing. Oh, well, that's awesome. Seems like there was a bit of a gap in the market there, and you did a good job in filling it. What was it like studying computer science and, about regulations? Was that like a good experience for you? Was it like really interesting? Because I know that studying, sometimes you go into it thinking that it's one thing, and then you realize that it's something entirely different. And also studying can be quite different to what it looks like when you're actually in that career. So, a very long question, but what was that like for you?
I'd have to say I really loved studying computer science. I think that that's just the way my brain works. If I'm not at work, I'm usually at home playing computer games and just doing something computer related. So computer science has always been my main love, and the way that machines work and think and can assist us to do things. And I have this theory that most computer programmers are predominantly lazy people because we work with these systems that can make life easier. If I've had to do a task once, twice, three times, I want to turn that into some sort of systemized process that can then do itself. And I don't care if it takes me 200 hours to write some code that will do something that would otherwise take me 20 minutes. If I've had to do that 20 minutes more than two times, I'm spending that 200 hours to fix it.
Mm.
And then that will also fix it for other people who come into it. So computer science, I think, was always a big love for me. It really fits with my desire to make things easier. Law I came into as a way of moving away from computer programming and wanting to do something that would still enable me to use that technical background, but in a different field. And it's very dry. Law is very, very dry. And so for me, it was I needed to add a little bit more to it to make it easier for me to study. And I know that there are people out there that just automatically love the law, and I love the law, and I love the safeties and securities and protections that particularly regulations enable and enact. But getting through a law degree was, and I was 40 when I started the law degree. It was a lot more difficult. So I had to do other things to try to entertain myself. So I used to run this not a competition, but this sort of thing on Twitter at the time, which is now X, where I would get people to dare me to use a word or a phrase within a submission, and got in trouble once for using the word fluxinose anilopilification within a corporations law exam,
Oh,
which my lecturer said was an inappropriate use of her time having to look up what it meant.
you're just, expanding our lexicon.
Expanding our lexicon. I think one of the more interesting ones was where somebody dared me to use an entire phrase from The Simpsons within a criminal law exam, so that was fun. But yeah, just adding things like that. I have this sense of the ridiculous that I'm quite happy to put into action at almost any time, although not necessarily within our own technology. Where, it helped me to get through a law degree that was otherwise very dry until I met Alice, and Alice was like, space law, and I was like, space law, what's that even a thing? And it got exciting after that. I think I needed to find my niche within that area, and then it became something that was quite simple.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we talk about space law and how important it is in the centre all the time. But for those that aren't aware of its importance or even of its existence, because I find sometimes kids, they don't even know that space regulation and space law exists. But could you please explain to us why we need these space regulations and these space laws?
Yeah, sure. So, the best way to actually explain this one, if we let anybody do anything that they wanted at any time, life would be chaos. So we have road laws for a reason, and that's to make sure that people are able to drive down the road safely, or that you can cross the road to get from this particular side of the street over to where your school is or somewhere else safely. And people have to obey road rules to make sure that we all keep each other safe. And we have to do the same with space. And it's not just a matter of people can build technology and put it into space. There are consequences of actions. And so what we need to do is check that people are aware of the consequences of those actions, and that if they do this particular thing, what is going to happen thereafter. So in space, particularly in lower Earth orbit, we've got a problem with a lot of traffic. So if we're looking again at the roads, it's like there's constant traffic chaos. And we need to make sure that anything that we do in that area is not going to make that worse. So we have to be considerate of what else is there, where else it is, what it's doing, why it's doing it. And even when we're talking to it, we need to obey laws and regulations regarding how we talk to it, and making sure that we don't interfere with the way that other people are talking to their things that are in space. But the reason that we need to make sure that we're not getting in the way of the traffic is because if we crash into other people's objects, then that not only breaks our project, it can break somebody else's. And if that breaks into thousands and thousands of pieces, then there's thousands and thousands more chances that those pieces can crash into somebody else's objects, and so on and so forth. And the more pieces of space junk we have in orbit, the more pieces we're likely to have, because there's more pieces to crash into. And it's a cascading problem. So part of what we do is we need to make sure that companies are very, very aware, and that they express themselves correctly in what they've done to avoid situations that are going to endanger other people's space objects, or endanger the planet, or endanger anything else that we potentially touch. So there are laws with how we behave around other space bodies, celestial bodies, such as the moon or Mars or anywhere else that we go to. There are laws with how we're allowed to operate locally, such as if we are flying over the water, if we're shooting a rocket over the water, what considerations have we put into place with not hitting any boats or not endangering marine life? If we're flying over land, what are we doing to make sure that we're not endangering property or critical infrastructure? So if there's like a power plant somewhere, can we fly a rocket over it? No, we can't. Or even Aboriginal land rights, and making sure that if we're flying a rocket over the desert, that we're not going to potentially impact a site of significant interest to the Aboriginal populations. So there's a lot of different considerations that have to go into these laws, and the predominant reason is just to make sure that we keep everybody safe. It's for safety, for security, and for sustainability, because without those things, we won't be able to keep on launching into space. If we break that traffic up in orbit completely, we will be landlocked. We're not going to be able to shoot anything up, because there won't be space to fly a rocket or put anything else in orbit. So we need to protect what we've got before we break it. And humans are very good at breaking things.
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's a growing problem, and I suppose it's really good that we do have people like yourself within this industry that are making sure that it's easier for companies to be able to conform to regulations. You have touched on them a bit already, but what are some of the consequences of not following space regulations? And is it a common thing these days to have instances where, even internationally, where people aren't following space regulation, or is it all in all pretty good?
Most countries are pretty good with the way that they operate and cooperate with other nations. Most countries do have their own internal requirements to make sure that anybody who is launching into space operate within certain parameters. There have been incidents in the past where people have, for example, done a test locally that they can shoot down their own space assets. So I've got a satellite in orbit. I want to prove that I can destroy it from the ground, so that if anything goes wrong with that, I can destroy it or stop somebody else from being able to take control of it, or any other reasons that people want to be able to do that. For the most part, they play nice. I think there is a recognition that if we break space, we break it for everybody. That if we make it inaccessible, none of us can use it, not even me. If I break it for you, that's okay by me if you can't use it, but I can't use it either. So I think that there's a pretty good recognition out there that most people want to do something that's reasonably the right thing. As for consequences, if you do the wrong thing, there are international courts. There's the international law that we should be abiding by. It hasn't really been put to the test at this point in time. But there are, at a local level, different countries implement different consequences for companies who don't obey those laws. And here in Australia, that could involve jail time or fines. In the States, there are fines as well, and also potentially jail time. It just depends on which country you're looking at, but definitely at a more local level for the companies who are involved, there is certainly penalties available for people who aren't doing the right thing. On an international, it's more an embarrassment if we're caught not doing the right thing, and how we actually demonstrate to the rest of the world that we care about them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Speaking of international collaboration, I heard that you recently went to the International Astronomical Congress, or IAC. Was that your first time, and how was your experience this year?
Yeah, that was definitely my first time. It was amazing. It was we are a startup, so it's been a startup in the Australian sector where there's not as many space companies operating or doing the things that we need to be doing as there are in other places around the world. So it's been reasonably difficult to validate that what we're doing is the right thing. Australia is also, a set of friends, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the mum test, which is, if I, as a kid, am going to go up and show my mummy a picture of some electric bunny rabbit that I drew, she's always going to say, "That's lovely." And our friends tend to say nice things to us to make us feel good. And so it's a little bit hard to get some realistic feedback from around here, because we've got so many friends in this market that are just like, "Yeah, what you're doing is great. Yep, that's absolutely what we want to see." And so IAC, I think, was the first real opportunity we've had to really validate what it is that we're doing, and validate it we did. We had lines of people waiting to talk to us and telling other people to come and talk to us. And so I had people that were waiting in a queue for up to an hour to come and have a chat with me, who said, "So and so and so and so and so and so all said that I need to talk to you and that what you're doing is incredible." So yeah, it was the first time we've had a demo that we could go through with them and show them what it is that we're doing. And like I said, we can speed run regulatory research from a 3 to 4 month process down to 30 seconds worth of questions. And we have ways and means of being able to speed that up even further, so that it's just a matter of upload a file that you've got, and we can answer all of those questions and then answer all of the other questions that would result from those questions to be able to fill in these reports. And we should be able to eventually turn a several-year regulatory research requirement or several-year regulatory research process into minutes. After that, it's just, we're changing regulations from something that for a larger project, like launching a rocket, could take 2.5 years, into you've already created this data, so we just need the delta. We just need what's different between what you've already done and what the regulators need to know to make sure that they understand that you're doing this and you're doing it safely, and that you understand what the consequences are.
Yeah,
so
wow.
IAC was great for us from that perspective, that we really got to validate what it is that we're doing, and people love it, and we're excited about what's next.
Oh, that's awesome. I've never been before, but it sounds like an incredible time. And going there with your own business as well, I can imagine would just be incredible. So that's awesome.
I think my one regret with that is I didn't actually get much chance to go out and have a look at other people's stalls or go to any of the talks, because I was at our booth for the entire time.
Yeah, gosh, yeah, that's tough. You'll have to go next year, I guess, as well.
Looking forward to it. And it's in Turkey next year. I've been there before, and it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Well, how do you feel about the progress made in space regulations and law in Australia, but also internationally?
The progress internationally. So in Australia, where it's a constant process of updating, upgrading, learning. We're still new to this, and the regulators are doing everything that they can. And it's not just, when talking about space regulations, it's not just the space regulations that we need to abide by. we're looking at things that, start with police checks right down at the, local level, and whether or not a local government thinks it's a good idea for you to be able to perform this particular set of actions. So it's certainly not just the space agency or the space regulator who has a say in it. There's like, if you're launching a rocket, there's 38 different regulators involved in that process. So it's huge. Yeah, so there's a lot of work being done to work within the agency and with other agencies that are involved in that process and have more cooperation and communication between them. And that's certainly something that we can help with. It's something that is always going to be changing, and it always should be changing as we learn more and as new things are being created. It should always be changing. What we did find at IAC is that there are a lot of countries who have not got space sectors or operational space sectors at this point in time, and they're really trying to build those. And so they're looking towards Australia and other states to see how other people are doing it, and what lessons they can learn from what we've done and what we've learned. And so, as a company, Blue Dwarf, we've had a lot of interest from those particular countries insofar as we need to do something similar to what Australia is doing, and we really like what you're doing, and we're keen on potentially using you as a front end for our systems. And so they're conversations that we're having at the moment. But yeah, there's a lot of interest out there in doing things more sustainably, which is always wonderful to hear. And so we're very excited to work with countries on making sure that those activities that we perform are done much more sustainably, and that we're working with companies in general from a much earlier stage. Because a lot of the problems that we're finding with regulations at the moment is companies just don't think about it. There's a bunch of engineers who are just, yay, we're going to build this amazing space technology and it's going to save the world, or it's going to do this, or it's going to do that, and that's all we're thinking about. And so they've spent all their time and their money building this amazing space technology, and then they can't do anything with it. And so space laws in general really need to be informed to those companies much earlier. They need to capture them much quicker, and that's something that the Australian Space Agency is really putting a lot of effort into doing now. And I think a lot of other countries are seeing that and wanting to take note and follow suit.
It's great for Australia that we're, kind of leading the way in a sense and being a responsible space actor. That's awesome. I was also wanting to ask, what has been your most challenging or rewarding experience in your current role so far?
Most challenging is probably, for a long time within this company, it was just me. And trying to go out there and talk to people and make things happen when it's just one person has got to be probably one of the biggest challenges that I've ever faced in my life. And, asking people to believe in my vision, even though it's just words at this point in time, has been really a massive challenge. And probably the most rewarding was, I'd have to say, that was IAC, and having people actually see that, they say a picture tells 1,000 words. Actually being able to show them what I've been talking about for all of this time, and put it into a picture and something that they can actually touch and play with and interact with and get results and see that it's actually working and it will operate the way that I've been saying it's going to operate, has been probably one of the best things for me that I've ever been through, I've ever experienced. There's that moment of validation that you weren't sure you were going to actually get to.
Well, considering a lot of people, aim to start up their own companies, and it seems like it's not something I've ever tried, but it seems incredibly difficult and very time consuming, and you have to really, back yourself as well. I take my hat off to you. I can imagine it would be incredibly difficult, but also incredibly rewarding as well when it pays off.
Yeah, it is. And when I say it was just me for a long time, I mean, there's always support. There's been amazing support from the university sector and from the government. We've been involved in a number of startup incubators and accelerators that have, they provide you with education and sometimes small amounts of money and advisors and people who can actually really back you up and say, keep on going, you've got this, and we've got your back, and provide you a soft place to land if there are any disappointments or anything along the way. So yeah, I'd have to say that, if I were starting again, or if somebody were to ask me what would you do if you were starting another company, they'd say, get involved in everything that you can, from those incubators through to the government programs. Adelaide City Council have some assistance programs where they assist startups with, even just knowing who's around and who you can talk to, and who would be a good advisor for your particular business. So there's a lot of help out there. There just isn't anybody else out there doing what we're doing. So it's sort of been inventing wheels while taking what we can from all that help.
Yeah, incredible. Well, you kind of mentioned some of it just then, in terms of advice that you would give to people if they wanted to, begin a startup themselves. But what advice would you give to kids that are wanting to get into a similar career?
Okay.
Or adolescents even?
Adolescents, kids that are wanting to get into a similar career, I think just, follow the things that you love, do the things that you really get a lot from. So as mentioned, I absolutely loved computer science. That was my first love. And I always feel like people do better at things that they're passionate about, which is why I feel like the law degree really started coming together for me when I started building it on space. So I think it's really a matter of finding something that you actually really, really love doing, and follow that path, follow your heart, follow that path, work out what's going to get you there. So yeah, computer science and law for me. And also along with that, it's not too late to change your mind. You don't have to make a decision right now and stick to that thing forever. So you can try new things if there's something that you're not sure of, but you have a feeling that that's something that you'd really like to try and go and do, then, you've got the rest of your life to give that a go and decide, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do, or no, that's not for me, I'm going to do something else. I was 40 when I started my law degree.
Yeah, my gosh. I love hearing those stories, especially because I'm just about to finish my second degree and I'm in my 30s. And sometimes you think, if you're older, you can't start something new, or it's too late, or, but it's never too late. And there's so many people that don't have that normal sort of linear sort of journey through life. And it's good to see people kind of, showing their own experiences of what that looks like.
Yeah, I think it's one of those really dangerous things that, I've got a teenager who's currently in year 11, and there's so much pressure to decide what you want to be when you grow up, decide what you want to be, and you've got to apply for university, and you have to do all of these things according to this particular plan. And, if the plan doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Make a different plan. I think it's more important to have the resilience there to be able to go, you know what, that isn't okay. I need to do something different.
Yeah, definitely. Being able to modify things when your plan doesn't quite work out is a good lesson in resilience through life, I think.
Yeah, or even if your plan does work out and you want to add on to that plan, go forth. It's not too late to go and add to it. Also, if people are looking at changing careers into the space sector, I'd highly recommend going off and doing something like the International Space University courses. Which I believe that there's a very large portion of the space agency that has been through the ISU, where they offer a very, very broad range of subjects. It's highly intersectional with different different topics.
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I said different career paths.
Different career paths, not even different career paths, but how they actually interact with each other, and why just engineering or just law or just medicine or just any of these other areas are not what space is about. It takes a village. I say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to have a space sector, and that village needs people of all sorts of different skills. And so it doesn't matter what you're doing, how you're going about it. There's a place for you in space, as they say, and I think that's actually a really, really valuable way to figure that out, is to go and do
Mm,
something that provides that sort of broad education.
definitely. Good advice. Thank you. Now, I can see that we haven't had any questions posted in our Q&A yet. So if you would like to ask Kerry anything, please put it in any time from now within the next 10 minutes, and I'll happily pass it on to Kelly. But I do have some more questions for you, Kelly. What are some skills that you've acquired over your career that have helped you be so successful in this industry?
Yeah, I'd have to say that I guess that sense of the ridiculous has really helped me through it because yeah, you need to find some fun in otherwise some very, very dry topics. I don't know, it's the moving between technical and law was a whole lot more similar than what I was expecting. Because if you are doing, particularly trying to find where a bug exists in code, and you've got to work out, I'm using this particular piece of code, but it's calling all of these other functions from external files, and I can see that the bug is being called from here, and it's actually over here, and being able to trace through this big hierarchy of different pieces of code to be able to find where a bug is in code is very, very similar to being able to trace through legislation to find out where a particular law is made or why that law is in existence in the way that it's in existence, or even the background behind when it was put in and how it was put in and under what circumstances and what the intention was. They're very, very similar in scope and how you have to perform those tasks to be able to dig down deeper and work out what the basis of it is. So I'd say that, you know, my entire career as a computer programmer, particularly when I was working in Linux kernel, was, I guess, setting me up ready for the career that I then built in law and having to find those other parts of information. But yeah, I don't know. If there's one particular thing more than another that was really helpful in building the skills that I have, I think it was just all a very valuable experience to be able to put it together into what we're doing now.
Yeah, definitely. Now I see that we've got a question that's just popped up. So the question is, hi Kelly, I'm in year 11, always loved science, but never been good at maths or physics. What do you think I should study if my university doesn't offer space law?
If your university doesn't offer space law, well, most universities would offer some flavour of law if that's where your interests are, but there is space science available at a lot of universities nowadays that would also give a reasonably broad range of topics to explore and find what works for you. Yeah, I'm also a little bit querying over whether you're not good at maths or whether you're thinking you're not good at maths. I think that we're very capable of giving ourselves a narrative and believing it, and these things are mainly just systems that take the right kind of education to be able to work out. And I don't know that necessarily the base education that is given to everybody is the right education for everybody. So I don't think it's that you're not good at maths or physics. It's maybe you haven't been taught the way that works for you. But yeah, I just think if you love space science, go and do space science. If you love the law, go and do something that is legal related, and you can always turn it into something that's more space focused later. If you like psychology, we need people who understand psychology for space, medicine, you know, if there's anything that you're interested in, we need it in space, even architecture. So anything you want to do, if you want to work with space, do it.
Yeah. We always talk about that at the centre. We have a huge rocket graphic where it's got all of these different careers of what you can do within the space industry, and a lot of the things you just mentioned are in it, because I don't think people are aware of how many different avenues you can go down in space. Yeah. Speaking of, would you ever want to go to space if you had the opportunity?
Oh, that's a hard one. Space is definitely dangerous and trying to kill us, but yes, I'd have to say I would.
You would.
In a heartbeat.
Awesome. Whereabouts would you want to go, and how long for?
You see, I think I just want to jump on one of the voyages and just go forth and see what's out there. Just keep on going and seeing new and amazing things for as long as I possibly could, although I don't know that I'd live as long as one of those things will. So, yes, I'd love to just go forth and Star Trek it all the way out across the universe. I'd love to see all sorts of things.
I love that. That's a very brave answer. I often ask people this in the center, and people are very much a yes or no. They're like, yeah, I reckon I'd have to go to space. And then other people are like, absolutely not. Are you crazy? It's way too dangerous out there. And then, there's some, like I've said before, I'd happily do a little day trip into space, I think, get a little taste. I'd love to see the Earth from space, but then I don't think I could go to Mars and never come back. I think I'd get too homesick. But I commend I commend that you'd want to go on the voyages and see the rest of the universe. It would be very incredible if we could do that. Maybe one day.
Yeah. I wish it could be in my lifetime.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. Do you believe that we will ever find other intelligent life in the universe? Or this doesn't even have to be whether you feel like it's feasible, but whether you'd want to, or you can answer both if you like.
I think it's highly arrogant of us to think that we're the only ones.
Yeah.
And considering where we are and the circumstances that we're in, and we've already found other signs of life or water and bacteria elsewhere. So it could happen. There's so much out there. Whether it has, whether it hasn't, I don't. I think it would be incredibly arrogant of us to think that we are the only ones. Would I want to find them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Hopefully they're friendly.
I'm all in for exploring and learning new things, and love people watching. So I think I'd love some alien watching as well.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I hope that if we find them, I hope they're friendly.
That would be good. That's
Yeah.
absolutely preferable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Now we do have another question for you, Kelly. They've said, "Hi, Kelly, very interesting stuff. How do you see space law evolving in the next few years?"
Oh, how do I see space law evolving in the next few years? I don't really know. I would hope that we are much more interoperable and able to work with other areas of law and make sure that things are simplified. I guess that's part of why we do what we do, because law takes such a long time to change in these really meaningful ways. And so we figured that it's not necessarily the laws that there's always room for improvement, but failing being able to make those improvements, we can improve the processes around them and make sure that we can get them to, do the things that we want them to do instead of waiting for them to be changed to do those things. So yeah, I'd like to see simplification and better coordination between all of the different agencies that have their say in how things operate, and also better coordination internationally so that we can perform these tasks in these ways that we should be able to. But, failing that, we're building software that can do it for them. So we're hoping to turn the process from a company's perspective into what I'd actually like to see law actually doing.
Yeah, excellent. Good answer. And on that note, that is actually all we have time for today. So thank you for joining us and listening to our space guests. And thank you so much to Kelly Yeoh for sharing your story with us too. It's been fantastic. If you would like to learn more about space in Australia or how to become a space expert, please come visit us at the Australian Space Discovery Centre. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.